Today is Friday, Chof Teves, Tov Shin Ayin Tes. In fact, it's the Yortzeit of the Rambam. And we are in Teres Menachem Sefer Mamar Tov Shin Yud Gimel in the Mamar of Yud Beis Tammuz, Dibra Maschel Leman Daas, on page Kuf Pei Daled. The Rebbe began the Maimer on the Posuk, on the verse in Melachim, so that all nations of the world should know that Hashem is Elokim, Havayahu Elokim, Ein Oid, there is none else. The Rebbe explained the simple interpretation of the Posuk, of the verse, and the point of the verse is that even the nations of the world should know that Havaya is Elokim. And beside him there is none, there is nothing. The inner meaning of the pasuk that I've explained is similar to another verse, another pasuk, which Moshe Rabbeinu says to Bnei Yisrael, to the children of Israel, at the end of the 40 years in Pashas V'Eschanan, in Deuteronomy, in Dvorim, you should know today and consider in your heart, Ki Havayahu Elokim. That Havaya is Elokim. The simple meaning is of Havaya is Elokim is the Lord is your God. But in the deeper sense, obviously, Havaya is Shem Yud Kei Vovkei, Hashem's name Yud Kei Vovkei. And there is the other name of Hashem, Elokim. So the verse says that Havaya is Elokim, that they're all one. The Rebbe quoted from the Zohar that on this, that the Zohar states that one of the first mitzvahs that the Yidden were instructed, commanded, was to know that Havaya and Elokim is Kul Echad. Havaya and Elokim is Chadhu. It's not exactly that language there, but that from the context, that's what it's obvious that's what the Zohar means. And in fact, the Zohar doesn't quote the pasuk in this section. Doesn't quote the pasuk V'yadayta Hayom, the verse from V'eschanan. If you remember in Parshas Va'era, the second parsha, which we'll read next Shabbos, not this coming Shabbos, but the following Shabbos, when Hashem tells at the end of Parshas Shmos, Moshe Rabbeinu complains to Hashem, and he says, "Lama harei lama zeh." Right? Why did things got worse since I came to Parai to tell them to let the Jewish people go from Egypt? Things have gotten worse. Lama harei lama zeh. Lama zeh shlachtoni. Why did you send me? So in answer to that, the Torah begins in Parshas Va'era, that Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I have revealed myself to the forefathers. Ushmi Havaya lo nidaiti lehem. I did not inform them of my name. I did not appear to them and reveal to them my name Yud Kei Vovkei. I appeared to them with the name Kel Shaddai. And then he goes on and he says, I'm going to take these people out of this nation out of the land of Egypt. I'm going to save them from oppression. I will redeem them. V'hitzesi, v'hitzalti, v'go'alti. And then it goes on and it says, the Torah says, Hashem says, v'lakachti. And I will take this nation to me as a people. Right? Mitach hasivlis Mitzrayim, from under the oppression of Egypt. V'daitem, the verse concludes, and you will know, ki ani Hashem Elokeichem, that I am Hashem Elokeichem, Lord your God. Similar expression of Havaya and Elokim. On this verse, the Zohar says that this is one of the earliest commandments that the Jewish people were given. So we see that the idea of Havaya hu Elokim, that Havaya is Elokim, is already an early commandment from this Zohar. This includes, says the Rebbe, the knowledge that Havaya and Elokim So in other words, which means what? It means that Havaya and Elokim are all one. Right? So we'll start from the line Umizem move on. 6, 8, 10, 12 lines from the top. Umizem. Umizem move on. From this is understood from the fact that the Zohar says that when on the verse Ki Havaya Ki Hashem Hu Elokim, right? Ki Ani Hashem Elokechem. In fact, I just want to point out. Right, I'm sorry. The Zohar is on the pasuk in Va'era. V'lakachti, I'm going to take this nation to me as a people. I'm going to take them out from under the oppression of Egypt, and they will know that I am Hashem Elokechem. I am Hashem Elokim. The Zohar explains that, and the Zohar says that the verse in verse Chanan is a continuation to the verse in Va'era. So the verse in verse Chanan which says V'yodaita hayom v'shavaysa lavecha ki Hashem hu Elokim ein oid, right, is a continuation to the verse in the Zohar. The bottom line is that when it says Ki Ani Hashem Elokim or Ki Hashem hu Elokim, it means that Hashem and Elokim is all one. The name Yud Kei Vav Kei and the name Elokim are actually all one, as the Rebbe will explain in a moment. What's the bottom line? It's one thing to know that there's a God. There's another thing to know that Havaya and Elokim are all one. That's a much greater level. That's a much greater accomplishment. So Umizem move on from all this is understood. Gam benegei lepirush hakosov, also in connection to the interpretation of the verse on which our Mamar begins. Leman Daas kol ami oretz ki Havaya Elokim, so that all the nations of the world should know that Havaya is Elokim. What does that mean? This includes also the knowledge that all the matters related or included in the name Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and all the matters included in the name Elokim are all one. Right? So means that Havaya and Elokim are one. The verse in Va'era also means that Hashem and Elokim is one. So therefore, when it says Laman Das in our posuk, that all the nations should know Ki Havaya Hu Elokim, it means not only should they know that Hashem exists, Hashem is God. It means that they should also know that Havaya and Elokim are all one. So what's the problem? We need to understand what connection does that Havaya and Elokim are one have to the nations of the world? And how is it possible that the nations of the world should have the knowledge that Havaya and Elokim are all one? That's one problem. The other problem is with Frat, particularly when you say how you deal the knowledge that Ein Eid, there is none else. Not only is Havaya and Elokim all one, but besides Havaya and Elokim, besides Hashem, there is nothing else. Doesn't mean that there is no other God. It means there is no other existence. That's in even a higher level than the knowledge that Havaya is Elokim. This knowledge, this perception that Ein Oid, there is nothing else besides Hashem, no other existence besides Hashem, was accomplished through Moshe after a very long time. As the Medrash brings, Moshe on this verse in Vas Chanan, the Medrash says, on Moshe tells the Bnei Yisrael, you should know today, consider it in your heart, that Havaya is Elokim, ain't Bashamayim Mimal, in the heavens above, Valoras Mitachas, and on the earth below, ain't there is none else. Says the Medrash, Moshe Somoy, Af Bechalal Yeshalel. Moshe has put Hashem also in the universe, meaning to say not only in the world, in our obvious world, but even in the worlds that we're unaware of, in outer space, that's the literal translation. That I'm going to explain later on that we're talking about realms that are beyond our physical world. We'll see later on in a minute. But what does it mean, Moshe Somei Af Bechalal Yeshalel? That Moshe Rabbeinu put him also in in other words, he made Hashem's existence whole and total and all encompassing, which wasn't always the case. For example, the Medrash brings that Yisrael also left room for Avodah Zarah. He says, now I know that God is greater than all other gods, than all gods. He's the greatest God of all. Meaning to say there are others, but he's the greatest. He brings Naaman, when Eliyahu Navi cured Naaman from his tzaras, from his leprosy. Famous story when Gehazi then tricked Naaman into thinking that Eliyahu asked him for gifts. The whole business. Eliyahu told him to bathe in the Jordan River 7 times, etc. So he says, Ati Daiti, over there he says another expression. One expression with Hashem's name. Anyways, he brings a number of scenarios. Yisroi, Naaman, Rochov, they all refer to Hashem, but not in the totality as Moshe Rabbeinu. I think Naaman said, Ati Daiti ki yesh Elokim ba'oretz, that there is a God on earth.
When you say Ati Daiti, it's like,
But not only that, he says only on the earth. Yisroi says that he was the greatest God of all, so there were other gods. Rochav said another expression, I don't remember right now. Moshe Rabbeinu said, Havayahu Elokim b'shamayim mimal v'al'aretz b'tochas einoid. Total oneness of Hashem. That means Moshe Somei Afachal Shalom. Shneimar ki Havayahu Elokim b'shamayim mimal v'al'aretz b'tochas einoid. That's the conclusion of the pasuk. V'yadaita hayoyim. That what? That Havaya is Elokim, in the heavens above and on the earth below, there is none else. Mahu ein oid, what does it mean there is none else? The Medrash asks, and it answers, Afilu b'chalal l'shulelam. Even in the hollow of the world, meaning to say in the universe, in the entire universe, in outer space, in all spheres. So if that's what we're talking about, so if we're talking about ein oid, is such a high level, and the Medrash enumerates at least 3 others, who did not comprehend godliness to that extent. So how could the verse over here state that the point is that all the nations of the world should know that Havaya is Elokim, there is none else. There seemed to be an innovation that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote about after a long time and different than everybody else. The others didn't have that perception. Top of page that also the nations of the world should come to the recognition that Havaya is Elokim. Not only that, they should come even to the knowledge, to the comprehension, the Ein Eid. Not only that Havaya is Elokim, that Havaya and Elokim are one, but even more so, Ein Eid, there is none else, there is no other existence. Which is even a higher level than the knowledge that what? Asher Havaya Elokim. Even the Rebbe emphasizes the question even more. Even by the children of Israel, as a result of the fact that they are believers, the children of believers, as the Gemara says in Shabbos, that Moshe Rabbeinu came to Hashem and he complained, what happens if they don't believe me? If they won't believe me? That you sent me to take them out of Egypt? So Hashem answered him, what do you mean? The Gemara says, what do you mean they won't believe you? Of course they'll believe you. They believe, as it says in the verse, Vayamin ha'am, and the nation believed. B'nei ma'aminim, they were the offspring of believers. By Avram Avinu it says, Vehemin ba'Hashem, I think it's by the Bris Ben Absorim, by the covenant. He believed in Hashem, Vayachshaveh alei l'tzedakah. That Avram Avinu also believed. He told him, look up to the heaven, you'll see how numerous the stars are, so you're going to be children, and so on and so forth. So even by Bnei Yisrael, as a result of the fact that they are believers, offspring of believers, they know that Havaya Elokim. How do the children of Israel know that Havaya and Elokim is one? Mitzad the Munah because of simple faith. In other words, it's innate within the faith of the children of Israel to believe that Havaya is Elokim. Nevertheless, there is a necessity for great toil. It's one thing to believe that Havaya is an Elokim. There's another thing. It's another thing to know that Havaya is an Elokim. As the Rambam states that the mitzvah of Amunah is Leida Sheyashem Matzarishin. To know. What does it mean to know? To connect with the fact. Daas is the idea of connection. Not only do you believe it abstractly, when somebody believes, the Gemara says, a thief will daven to Hashem before he goes into his tunnel to steal. Hashem said, Lo yisignei, don't steal. And he's davening to Hashem that he should be successful in his theft. Why? Because he believes. Belief doesn't necessarily have to impact the person in his behavior, in one's behavior. Leda, knowledge means it becomes part of your makeup to such an extent that it affects you. V'ha'odam yoda es chava. Right? Daas is his kashrus connection. It's the difference between knowing how one ought to be to how one actually is. As the Rebbe quoted, I think in the Mamar of
First Mamar spoke about it.
Mishpatim, I think Tafshin Yud Aleph. Sorry?
That's what that Mamar was. The first Mamar spoke about it.
Yeah, but that's the idea. Das is the idea, the difference between Chacham and like a child. Child is not before Bar Mitzvah is not a bardas. What does it mean, bardas? You could have a clever child who knows what one needs to do. You come and say to him, this is right, this is wrong. He'll say, yes, but. I know and I know it. But in actual fact, it doesn't connect. There's no connection between the meichin and the midas and the emotions, between the brain and the emotions, to the extent that it should impact the person to behave in a certain way. Why? Because one is deficient in das. Das is the connector of the meichin to the midas. So therefore, v'yadaita hayim. So for the children of Israel, from knowing notionally that Havai and Elikim is one, to knowing it to the extent that it should be v'yadaita, yediyah, connecting to such an extent, Ben Israel also need assistance to achieve this. If that's the case, how is it possible that this knowledge should also be, as it says in the verse, Leman Daas kol amei haaretz, that this knowledge should also be Eitzel Umas Ha'olam, by all the nations of the world, She'ein lehem kol dvarim ha'Mesayim, she'eshel Ben Israel, who do not have all those things that help the children of Israel to accomplish this. That's the question of the Rebbe. Now in the next section, which we will continue, we have time. 10 past, yeah? Chapter 2. We can add in the inner aspect of this question, right? In the verse, from Pashas Vaschan, it says, you should know, in the heavens above, in the earth below. The Rebbe is going to explain this in the deep, what it means in the deeper sense, and according to which it will become even more difficult to understand. How is it possible that the knowledge in all of this should also be among all the nations of the world? What's the issue? The verse says, actually, talks about 4 locations in which Havaya and Elikim exists. Havaya that Havaya is Elikim, where? In 4 different locations. There's Bashamayim in the heavens, then there's Bashamayim Mimal. The implication being that doesn't mean only the heavens above it means the heavens and even above the heavens, beyond the heavens. Then there's Oretz, earth, Valoros Mitochas, which means not only the earth below, but it means below the earth. 4 locations. What does that mean in the deeper sense? The implication, the connotation, the way to understand this verse is that the idea that Havaya and Elikim Yeshnam Heim Bashamayim Veheim Ba'oretz, that the idea of Havaya and Elikim exists, is both in the heavens and the earth. And in both of them there needs to be a yediyah, the knowledge, both in the heavens and the earth, one needs to have the knowledge, the yediyah, that Havaya and Elikim are all one. But that's not only the only point. You say them, you say even more so. That in each one of these matters, in each one of these locations, so to speak, of the heaven and the earth, there are 2 aspects. As the verse states, by choosing carefully the words Bashamayim Mimal, the heavens above, the implication being that there is just Shamayim Stam, just heaven. V'yesh Shamayim Mimal, then there's something called Shamayim Mimal, the heavens above. So to the earth below, there is Eretz Stam, simple Eretz, and then there's Eretz Mitachas, the earth below or below the earth. So it's like, as mentioned, 4 aspects. And in all of these 4 matters, which is Bashamayim Ba'aretz and the heavens and the earth, and Bashamayim Mimal Ba'aretz Mitachas, the heavens above and the earth below, which are additional 2 aspects. In all these four matters, Havaya hu Elikim, Havaya is Elikim the Kulachadu, which is all one. What does that mean? What is the heavens and the heavens above, the earth and the earth below? Just another couple of lines. Shamayim v'aretz b'chlol ha'sa'elim es koi al atzilus u'biyah. Right? Heaven and earth generally, in the deeper sense, according to Chassidus, according to Kabbalah, heaven is a reference to the world of emanation, Atzilus, and Aretz is a reference to the worlds of Bri Yitzira Asiyah, the realms of Bri Yitzira Asiyah. Creation, formation, and action. You know that they are the four realms: the world of emanation, the realm of emanation, the world of creation, the world of formation, and the world of action. They're divided generally into two categories. The world of emanation, Atzilus, is in one category, and the realms, the worlds of Bri Yitzira Asiyah are in another category. The reason being because Atzilus, the word Atzilus, one of the explanations why it's called Atzilus is because Atzilus is from the same root as Eitzel, which means near or with. It means that Atzilus is still in the domain of the Creator, of Hashem. Whereas Bri Yitzira Asiyah is there are already realms that are in the domain of the Creator. The first creatures, for example, the first angels are in the realm of Bria, the world of creation. That's why it's also called Bria. Breishis bara Elikim. Creation. Creation denotes already something which is in the domain of the created. So therefore, Shamayim is a reference to what? Atzilus, the world of emanation. Oretz refers to the three realms of Bri Yitzira Asiyah because it's Oretz is down, Shamayim being up, Oretz being down, Atzilus and Biyah, conversely. The Olam Atzilus nikra Shamayim, the Olam is Biyah nikra Oretz. According to this, we'll also understand what is the addition of Mimal, Bashamayim Mimal, the heavens above, and then Allah Oretz Mitochas, the earth below, the Kivin Shabashamayim Koya, the Olam Atzilus, because since Shamayim is a reference to the realm of Atzilus, the realm of emanation, Harei Bashamayim Mimal Koya, the Olam Shalifni Atzilus. So what does it mean, the heavens above? The realms that exist beyond Atzilus, beyond the world of emanation, even higher. Sometimes these realms are referred to the crown of emanation, the crown of Atzilus. Just like a crown that surrounds, so to those realms that are beyond Atzilus are transcendent. They transcend Atzilus. Being that Oretz is a reference to the worlds, the realms of Bri Yitzira Asiyah. So therefore, in the addition of the word mitochas, after al ha'oretz, meaning the worlds below, nichlolim gam klipis v'sitra achra. That's an implication. The implication being something which is lower than Bri Yitzira Asiyah, the lowest, right, even lower than the earth. What's that a reference to? That refers to klipis v'sitra achra, those aspects that are outside of the domain of kedusha. The avshem mitzad batzavan beis habriya. For although when Klippa was created, those aspects that are outside of Kedusha were created, they were created from the time of their creation, they were lower than even Elohim Asiyah, even the world of action, even the lowest realm. As he brings from the Arizal, right? They note over here, they refer to the Arizal. The Arizal says that when Hashem created the Klippas were created already on day one. It says that the Malach HaMavet, for example, the angel of death, was created on day one. Klippa was created on day one. The opposite of Kedusha. But where were they? Says the Arizal, Madra Klippas was mitachas l'kol ha'ilmis. Toyu avoyu v'ruch l'kim merachefes al pnei tahim, in the abyss. Right? Merachefes, it says, is Reish Pei Ches Meis, 248 particles that fell from Sfiras HaKelim, Meis, the idea of death. Anyway, so that was on day one. Where was it? Pnei Sahim, in the abyss. It had no connection to the consciousness of the world. Chet Adam Rishon, the sin of Adam Rishon, brought Klippa into the consciousness of the world. That's why it brought about death, because that's the way Klippa latches onto Kedusha. And if a person would live forever, then Klippa would live forever. Klippa on it's almost supposed to die off. So the sin brought about death. So now Klippa dies off. Now when Mashiach is going to come, and Klippa will be banished again, the Suruch Hatuma Aver Mina Aret, we will live forever again, etc., etc. So the bottom line is, so even though what the Rebbe says, the condition of Klippa when they were created was that they were not part of the consciousness of Elam Asiyah, of even the lowest realm. So what does it mean, Al Oretz Mitachas? Why do you include it in Oretz, in this verse? Nevertheless, they had some connection to the world of creation, of action. I mean, the mere fact that the Pasuk says that they were beyond the abyss, yes, they were separated from the consciousness of the world, but some association they had, particularly after the sin of the tree of knowledge. When did we get the instruction to know that Havaya is Elokim in the heavens above and even in the earth below? In this context, meaning even in Klippa. That we got that after the sin of the tree of knowledge. At that point, Klippa and Sitrachra, the other side of Kedusha, was mixed in to the worlds of Biyah, realms of Biyah. And it's only concerning the realm of Atzilus, emanation, that the verse that states, evil does not dwell with you. Where is that reality? In the realm of Atzilus. But in the realms of Biyah, after the sin of the tree of knowledge, there is Ra in Biyah, in Bria Tzirasiyah, as it says, Bria is Rubei Toiv, and Ra, Bria is mostly good, and only a little bit Ra. In Yetzirah it's balanced half and half, and Asiyah it's mostly Ra and a minimum of Toiv. Therefore, we have to start davening. The bottom line is that Shamayim Imal is a reference to Atzilus and the worlds that are beyond Atzilus. Al Oretz Mitachas is a reference to Biyah and even to Klippus. So therefore, since we're talking about such lofty things, that makes the question that Rebbe asked in the beginning of the Maimon even stronger. What's the connect? How does that come to be an instruction, Laman, declaration that all the nations of the world should know this? Talking about the deepest matters of Kabbalah and Chassidus and the existence of Hashem, for which one needs a lot of study and a lot of preparation, a lot of help, and so on and so forth. Vikumtis, how does it come to be referred in the context of Kol Amei Ha'aretz?